In 1943, the British military used a dead man to win the war. What they did with his body, Hitler never saw coming. April 1943. A fisherman off the coast of southern Spain spots something unusual floating in the water. It looks like a man, in a British military uniform, a briefcase chained to his wrist. Spanish authorities pull the body out. They open the briefcase. Inside are letters, official, top-secret military letters, revealing the Allies' plan to invade Europe, not through Sicily, through Greece and Sardinia. Within days, those letters are on Adolf Hitler's desk, and Hitler believes every single word. But here's the thing. The man had no name, no real identity. He was never a soldier. He was never a spy. He had never even been to Spain. And the letters were completely fake. This is the story of Operation Mincemeat, the most brilliant, bizarre, and ruthless deception in the history of modern warfare. To understand why this operation existed, we need to go back to early 1943. The Allies, Britain, America, and their partners, had just won a brutal campaign across North Africa. Hitler's Africa Corps was defeated. The door to Europe was cracking open, but there was one enormous problem. To get into mainland Europe, the Allies needed to cross the Mediterranean, and the most logical, most obvious stepping stone was the island of Sicily, right at the bottom of Italy's boot. Everyone knew it, including the Germans. Winston Churchill himself said, "Anyone but a fool would know it's Sicily." And that was the problem. Hitler wasn't a fool. Or, at least, his generals weren't. German forces were already flooding into Sicily, building up defenses, preparing for the inevitable Allied assault. If the Allies attacked Sicily with those defenses in place, they would walk into a massacre. Tens of thousands of soldiers would die on those beaches. The invasion could fail entirely. Someone had to come up with a solution, and that someone was a quiet, brilliant, deeply eccentric British intelligence officer named Ewan Montagu, and his equally strange colleague, Charles Cholmondeley. Their plan? Make Hitler think the Allies were going somewhere else entirely. Make him pull his troops out of Sicily. And do it using a dead man. The idea was almost laughably simple on paper. Almost, they would find a dead body, dress it in a British military uniform, give it a false identity. A fictional officer named Major William Martin, plant fake letters on the body suggesting the Allies planned to invade Greece and Sardinia, not Sicily. Drop the body in the ocean near Spain, where German spies were known to be active, and hope the Germans found it, believed it, and moved their troops away from Sicily. They were going to trick the most dangerous military machine in history, using a corpse and some forged letters. What could possibly go wrong? Everything about this plan had to be perfect. One mistake, one tiny inconsistency, and the Germans would realize it was a fake. The entire invasion would be compromised. The war itself could be lost. So Montagu and Cholmondeley got to work. First problem, they needed a body. This is where things get deeply strange. You can't just use any body. It had to be someone whose cause of death could be mistaken for drowning. Too much obvious trauma, and the Spanish coroner would become suspicious. They needed someone who had died recently, whose family wouldn't ask too many questions. After months of searching through hospitals and morgues, they found him. A 34-year-old Welshman named Glyndwr Michael. He had died in London, alone, homeless, with no family. His cause of death was accidental poisoning, subtle enough that it could pass as the result of drowning. They kept his body on ice while they built his entire fake life from scratch. Major William Martin, that was his name now. They gave him a rank, a service number, a photo ID, a letter from his bank complaining about his overdraft, because even fake people have money problems, a receipt from a London store, 2 love letters from a fictional fiancée named Pam, complete with a photo of a pretty young woman, borrowed from an MI5 secretary. They even gave him used bus tickets in his pocket, so it looked like he had recently been traveling around London. Everything had to be lived in, real, human. Then came the most important part, the fake letters. The letters had to strike a perfect balance. Too obvious, and the Germans would think it was a trap. Too vague, and they wouldn't act on it. They needed to feel like genuine top-secret correspondence between senior Allied officers. Private, slightly careless, and absolutely convincing. One of the key letters was written by General Sir Archibald Nye to General Harold Alexander in North Africa. In it, Nye casually referenced the Allied plan to attack through Greece and Sardinia, mentioning Sicily only as a deliberate decoy target. as if it was common knowledge in the upper ranks. The letter was written like an insider speaking to another insider, not screaming, "Here is our plan," but dropping hints, using code words, referencing meetings, natural, relaxed, deadly convincing. The most dangerous lies are the ones that don't try too hard. The letters were sealed, placed in a waterproof briefcase, and chained to Major William Martin's wrist. Everything was ready. Now they needed to get the body to Spain. On April 19th, 1943, the British submarine HMS Seraph slipped quietly out of Scotland, carrying a top-secret cargo that almost none of its crew knew about. Sealed inside a canister, packed with dry ice, was the body of Major William Martin. On the morning of April 30th, HMS Seraph surfaced in darkness off the coast of Huelva, Spain, chosen because a known German spy with direct connections to German intelligence was active there. The canister was opened, the body was placed in the water, dressed in his uniform, briefcase chained to his wrist, life jackets strapped on. Then the submarine silently slipped away beneath the waves. They had calculated the tides perfectly. The body washed ashore that same morning. A local fisherman found Major William Martin. Spain in 1943 was officially neutral, but its leader Francisco Franco had close ties to Hitler. German intelligence had deep contacts inside the Spanish government. The Spanish passed information about the body and the documents directly to the Germans. The briefcase was opened. The letters were photographed, and the contents transmitted to Berlin. The originals were then carefully resealed and returned to the British Embassy, as diplomatic protocol required. Montagu and his team had placed a single eyelash inside one of the envelopes to detect tampering. When the letters came back, it confirmed everything had been opened and read. The trap had been sprung. The intelligence reports landed on the desk of German High Command in early May 1943. Germany's top officers analyzed the letters, and they believed them. It wasn't blind trust. German intelligence ran checks on Major William Martin. They confirmed his name in British military records because Montagu had quietly arranged for the name to appear in official lists. They analyzed the letters for inconsistencies and found none. The personal items in his pockets painted the picture of a real, living human being. Hitler's top intelligence officer confirmed the documents were authentic, and Hitler, already paranoid about an Allied attack through Greece and the Balkans, was completely convinced. Hitler didn't just take the bait, he swallowed it whole and began moving an entire army. On May 12, 1943, Hitler issued a directive. German forces were to be reinforced in Greece and Sardinia. Rommel, one of Germany's greatest generals, was sent to Greece. Panzer tank divisions were pulled away from Sicily. Churchill received a message from British intelligence, 3 words that would become legendary. On July 9, 1943, just 2 months after the body was found, over 150,000 Allied troops launched the invasion of Sicily in nearly 3,000 ships. They hit the beaches at dawn, and the German forces they met were a fraction of what should have been there. The heavy panzer divisions were in Greece. The experienced troops were scattered. The defenses that should have made Sicily a slaughterhouse were dangerously thin. Within 38 days, Sicily fell. The Allies had their foothold in Europe. It was one of the fastest, most decisive victories of the entire war. Military historians estimate that Operation Mincemeat saved tens of thousands of Allied lives. Some argue it shortened the war by months. Even as Allied troops poured onto the beaches, Hitler was still waiting for an invasion of Greece that was never coming. A dead man had outmaneuvered the Führer. Operation Mincemeat remained classified for over a decade after the war. The men who ran it returned to their ordinary lives, carrying a secret they could never talk about. In 1953, Ewan Montagu published a book, The Man Who Never Was, revealing just enough to tell the story without compromising intelligence methods. It became a sensation. A film followed in 1956. But the real identity of the body, of Glyndwr Michael, the homeless Welshman whose death had saved so many lives, remained secret for decades more. He lay in a grave in Huelva, Spain, under the name Major William Martin, a man who never existed. He had no family, no fame, no future, but in death, he became one of the most important men of the 20th century, and almost no one knew his name. It was not until 1996, 53 years later, that the British government officially revealed his true identity. A memorial plaque was finally placed on his grave. Glyndwr Michael served as Major William Martin. Operation Mincemeat is often told as a spy thriller,